Hi, I'm Mike with Mort Inspection Services. If your oven isn't heating, then there's several things that can be the problem. First, do the obvious thing. Make sure it has electrical power. If your burners are heating, then you know that it's got electrical power and that that's not the problem. If the display works, then that's not a guarantee because the display only takes 120 volts. The burners and the oven use 240 volts. So make sure you've got electrical power. If you've got electrical power, then there's one of two problems. One, the controls aren't working, and two, the heating element isn't working. The heating element not working is the most likely and common cause of ovens not heating. So let's take a look at that. So if your heating element isn't getting red, then most likely your heating element has gone bad. And you've got two heating elements. You've got the one in the bottom, which is for baking, and you've got one up here for the broiler. Normally you would use the bake one, so if the oven's not getting hot on bake, it's going to be this bottom one. So what you've got to do is take out the oven racks. Then before you do anything else, turn the power off to your oven. If you've got a pull-out oven, you can simply unplug it. If not, you'll need to turn it off at the breaker panel. Okay, so here's the lower heating element. To check it, what you've got to do is remove it from the oven, and you do that by removing these two screws. And sometimes that takes a Phillips screwdriver, sometimes it takes a nut driver. Mine requires a 1/2-inch nut driver. So I'm going to pull this out. And then this should slide right out. Now there's wires connected to the back end of it. Now what you've got to do is pull these wire connectors loose, and they just slide off. Sometimes a pair of needle nose pliers might help. Okay, so now it's loose. So once you get it out of the oven, first thing you want to do is look, see if there's any visible problems with it. I've seen them where they're pretty well completely burned through. This one is in good condition. So if you've got a multimeter, what you want to do is set it to read ohms or continuity. Some of these have an audible signal where if these are making connection, they beep, but this one will just show that there's no resistance. You see 0 ohms. So what you'll do is touch the probes to the two contacts on the heating element, and we've got about 20.7, 20.8 ohms. So this heating element is good. If you put the probes on these contacts and it continues to show open load, then this element is bad and needs to be replaced. But if you get somewhere between about 20 and 50 ohms, then the element is good and you've got a problem elsewhere. So again, if it shows open load when you're touching these two, then the element is bad and it's time to replace it. So you do need to get one that's compatible with your oven, and then putting it back in is doing reverse of what we just did to take it out. So the first thing you're going to want to do is reconnect the wires to the element. Slide that on, make sure it's tight, push it all the way. Do the same thing with the other one. Make sure it's good and tight. Then you need to slide this thing back into place into the oven and reattach the screws. I like to get them both started before I tighten either of them. Okay, just make sure it's sitting flush. And one thing, you definitely want to make sure you put this in right side up. And you know it's right side up because it's got little supports that hold the element off of the oven floor. So that's all there is to it. And once you've got the element in there, turn the power back on, turn the oven on, and make sure the element heats up. While I wait for the oven to heat up, I'm going to go ahead and put these oven racks back in. Okay, you can see that element getting nice and red. So we have a working element, and this oven should cook just fine from now on. I hope this video has been helpful to you. I really appreciate you watching. Have a great day.